So I was trying to do things as quickly and as well as I could. The problem was my focus was split. And back then it meant, how do I do things as quickly as possible? And I confused that with efficiency, like most people do. I felt like I was just processing a life and a living instead of actually living one.
For a beginner, what are top 3 things that they can do to become more productive?
We rarely get everything done in a day that we say we're going to do. People trust their brains, and you can't trust it. Don't trust it when it's up here. It's got to be in front of you. Secondly, any task that's on your list better start with a verb.
For a beginner, who doesn't have a capturing system, how can somebody start with it?
We need filters because we overestimate what we can do in a day.
Why do actually humans struggle with productivity?
So the problem is people go, I may not get tomorrow, so let's do all the things today. And what happens is all the things today suffer.
So what are some of the common patterns that you observed after interviewing close to 600 people on your podcast?
We were publishing everything online to be more productive, and having written for Lifehack and being the managing editor for Lifehack and having several articles in Lifehacker, eventually I was like, why are we hacking our life so much? Really what productivity is the active link of intention and attention. If you say, I'm going to manage time, time's got other plans for you. So you want to manage your relationship with time.
One small action would you recommend people take?
Time theming is going to be what I would obviously recommend people. Hey, theme your days.
Hello and welcome to the Compounding Project podcast, where we talk about taking small steps to become healthy, wealthy, and wise. I'm your host Satish Gajula, and this episode is all about wisdom, especially productivity. Our guest today is Mike Vardy, who's joining us from Victoria, Canada. Mike is a productivity expert, author, podcaster, and coach dedicated to helping individuals and organizations achieve their fullest potential. He's known as a productivitist and has over 15 years of experience in the field of time management and productivity. He interviewed close to 600 guests on his podcast called A Productive Conversation. In this episode, we'll explore how to enhance your personal productivity and do more of what matters to you the most. With that, Mike, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to the conversation today.
Same here. I've listened to your podcast, maybe close to 50 episodes. I mean, you did close to 600 episodes, and I would say it's gem of a podcast, I would say for sure. I even had interviewed Courtney Carver and also we have a few guests that said yes, to coming on this podcast. I mean, I was going through your guest list and I was able to get some guest recommendation for my podcast as well. So that's wealth of knowledge. I would highly recommend people to check it out. Before we hit record, I mean, we were just talking about this, the theme of this conversation. So, to keep it at a very basic level when it comes to productivity, right? So I would want to start with from the evolution perspective. Why do actually humans struggle with productivity?
I think it's because there are too many things that they are trying to do in the moment that they are trying to do them. So presence is tricky. Being present in a moment is very tricky, because we either want to look backwards to see what we've done or to figure out where we went wrong, or we're looking ahead. More often than not, we're looking ahead, right? Kind of like when you're driving, you rarely think about where you've left behind. You're always looking to where you're going, but you really should be present while you're driving. Well, because if you don't have presence, then you may not get to where you want to go. And because we have so many external demands coming from outside sources, that can wreak havoc on our internal sense of trying to get into the state of productiveness. I think the other thing is that, again, we misunderstand what productivity even is, which is not the ability to be, efficient and effective, or the power to produce, especially in quantity, which is one of the definitions. Really what productivity is the active link of intention and attention. What do I intend to do? How am I going to pay attention to that to make sure? Well, if you're trying to do 40 things, you're not going to be able to pay attention to all 40 of them. So it's about, getting attuned and aligned with all the things that you need or want to do, and just getting better at filtering them. And we also live in a world which, we misconstrue, quotes and aphorisms like, time is money. There's a whole, if you read beyond that, you realize that there is more to that quote than just time is money, right? Or live for today because tomorrow isn't guaranteed. Or memento mori, remember that you will die. Sure, you're absolutely right. But the likelihood of it happening tomorrow is likely remote for you. Maybe not, but it's not absolute. So the problem is people go, I may not get tomorrow, so let's do all the things today. And what happens is all the things today suffer. So it's more about pausing, really, when you think about that and saying, okay, what really matters? Like, to your point, what really matters right now, today? And, when I'm, getting things done in all of these methods, I have time crafting, there's a ton of them out there. And really what I would aspire to, and what I think others should, is to use these frameworks, these systems, to highlight what you need and want to work on today, and then the same tomorrow, and the same the next day, and the next day, and the next day, so that you're actually making bit by bit measured progress. There's no silver bullet to this. There's no magic potion. It's not going to all be done. And I hate to tell you this, but you're never going to get it all done anyway, right? You're going to have things that you're ambitious about that you're never going to get done. Once we come to terms with that, I think it makes it easier to actually be productive instead of, as we were pointing out earlier, doing productive. So I know that's a longer answer, and I know we're trying to keep this basic, but, and it is, it's just, I think the really important thing for people to think about, especially when you're talking about compounding, right? Like the idea of compounding is bit by bit by bit by bit.
Yes.
I think it's really important for people to think about this, rather, like to lean towards action, I think, is fine. We want to make things happen, but you need to know what those things are. We need to be better about that. And because we have so many things vying for our attention, good or bad, that is the hard thing to do. Once you can exercise that muscle of, what do I intend to do? How am I going to pay attention to it? And figuring out that last piece, then the action is right action. Then you're getting the right things done. And then you're being productive.
Yeah. I love that, Avi. You said this in one of your previous podcasts. I don't know which one, but you said like attention without intention, it's aimless. And intention with no attention is powerless. I just love that. I just wanted to bring that up. So since we're on the topic of basics of productivity, so what are the you talked about most people have a lot of stuff to do, and then they just try to do more, and then they end up doing too many things and not doing meaningful work, right? So let's say for a beginner, what are top 3 things that they can do to become more productive?
Okay. So number 1, every task that's on your list needs to actually be a task. So what I mean by that is, if you look at your list, no matter where you put it, and your feeling says this is, I can't get this done today, or this is so big, or I'll do something else. That should be a signal to you that might be a project masquerading as a task on your list, and you need to break it down.
Yeah.
Now, this is the crazy part, is the hesitance to do this goes, oh man, that's more work. I'm making more tasks. You're not. You're just making the invisible visible, right? So putting together a podcast episode it's not just record podcast or do podcast. There are multiple steps, probably a dozen, easily a dozen steps. First off, you don't necessarily need to do all dozen of those, right? Nor do I. And not all of them need to be done today. Some of them you might need, you have to wait until it's recorded or whatever. So I'm just using that as an example. If you were to break that down, you go, I could do this and this and this and this. And then you're making measured progress towards this project. So the confusion between a task and a project is really, that's a big one.
We'll get back to the episode in just a few seconds. 94% of people who watch this channel haven't subscribed.
If you're enjoying this episode, then please do make a quick favor and hit that subscribe button. It helps the channel grow and bring in even more bigger guests, which means more value to you in the future episodes. Now, back to the episode.
Secondly, any task that's on your list better start with a verb. It's got to, because your brain needs that clue, right? Your brain loves stories. We love patterns and stories. I know you talked about Matthew Dix before, right? Like Matthew, storytelling. Like we love that. That's why, my daughter who's taking psychology in university, she said to me, and I'm paraphrasing this, she goes, the first psychology was philosophy. Right? Because they didn't have the science. So it was like the story. We observed human behavior, and that's where the philosophers came along and said, oh, well, I see this, I see that. Their job was to watch and learn. And it's funny because if you were to put down on your to-do list, say Bill, just Bill on your list. That's a verb. It's a noun. Are you paying a bill? Are you calling a bill? Which bill? Like, you don't know. And a lot of people just will write down a thing without putting the verb in front of it. The verb gives your brain a springboard, a start, a clue, And if it doesn't have a verb, and once you start to build that practice, if your thing on your list doesn't have a verb in front of it, then I know when I'm looking at a thing on a sheet of paper that's probably an idea. It's not a task. So it's the shorthand that we can create for ourselves. Another shorthand that you could do, which I think is something that we don't do, even if you want to run your to-do list sequentially, and there's a whole bunch of reasons why that doesn't work, or by priority level, and there's a whole bunch of reasons why priorities get mixed up. But if you were to look at your list and go, I'm a morning person. What are all the tasks that I know I would do better in the morning? And just putting like a little AM next to it, or an up arrow for high energy, and then a down arrow for the ones that you know are going to be low energy or better for PM. You may not do this for every task on your list, by the way, because if you can't decide, then you just wouldn't put that next to it. But it would still give you a filter. Hey, I'm a night owl. Okay, so these ones that all have PM next to it, I'm not doing them till after this time. I'm going to do these instead. And by the way, every argument that I have with that is, well, what if I don't have a choice? Well, you do. This is giving you choices, but also if it needs to be done today, then you might have to do the thing with less energy today, but it's a teachable moment that will say, the next time I need to do this, maybe I need to do this the day before. As a night owl, I always have to do I have to be one step ahead because of the way the world operates. So I'd say those three things, again, really acknowledging when a task is a project on your list and breaking it down to its smallest particles. Secondly, verbs. Every to-do list should activate your tasks. Put a verb in front of them. Gives your brain a break. And then thirdly, using energy levels and leveraging your energy or intensity levels that you have available to you, make that visible and very clear on your task list so that you can go, okay, well, these are the things I should do. That just doing those things will get you moving forward. And it will also, again, put you in that state of productiveness that we're looking for.
That's powerful. I mean, I can totally relate to what you just said. I mean, some of these concepts come from GTD. I'm a big follower of GTD. I read that book 6 years ago, and I'm still using the principles till date. For people who are not aware, GTD is getting things done by a popular productivity person, David Allen. So one of the things that he had mentioned, to break down this task, which you said, as small as possible, right? Because before that, I was in the mindset that I just don't want more tasks on my to-do list. Why would I want to have more tasks? But actually, that simplifies. At least that reduces the friction between the action versus the task, right? Because just like you said, for this podcast, I had close to 10 items just for Mike Vardy. Mike Vardy, the first one is reach out to Mike Vardy, and then send slots, time slots, and then send calendar invite. I had all this broken down so that I was just checking the list off so that I'll have less friction to do an action, and also the whole project gets completed.
Well, you're getting the dopamine hit every time you do a small task too, which is better than getting the dopamine from getting to inbox 0, right? It's because it's intentional. And what's interesting about all of this as you're talking about it is this idea that, again, you were looking at it going, I'm going to make bit by bit progress. And what's funny is people, the hesitancy to break it down. There is one thing you could leverage right now that will help you break down that project with very little effort. And it's using AI. Use AI now. You don't need to, you could say, hey, this is the thing. Give me all the steps I would need. And then it would give you every step. And then what you can do is personify it or customize it. Hey, this doesn't matter to me. Delete, delete, delete. And you can do this manually, or there are digital tools out there now, like ClickUp does this, where like, hey, what would be involved with this project? And it lists like, here's the 43 things you could do. I'm like, I'm not going to do 43, but I'll do 20. And thank you for taking the time to break this down. And by the way, when you're using AI in a tool like that, or even ChatGPT or whatever, or there's lots of these tools out there now, believe me, and I'm sure your audience is very aware of this now, is the thing is that you don't need to be super specific about what the project is. Well, I don't want to put my stuff in there. Secondly, it's gaining and learning from all of the data that people are putting in there about a project that might be similar to the one that you're working on.
Yes.
So the effort involved to do this stuff now is lower because of what AI can bring to the table. And for those that are afraid of using AI and don't see the value of it and are fearful of it, I get it. There are some elements of it, like anything else, that you may not like or may be used in a nefarious way. But if you are intentional and pay attention to it and are like, well, I only want to give it this much, that will be helpful. Really, before we hit record, you said you have a hard stop. I do not. I said, the only thing I have to do tonight is make dinner for my family. I can tell you, every Sunday, my wife and I sit down and we have what's called the effing meeting, which is, again, I love pretending that I'm swearing. But the F's stand for food, finance, fun, and family. So we talk about all of those things. And what's great about the food part is we've gone grocery shopping. We look at our fridge and freezer and we go, okay, well, what do we have? Like, if we want to go buy more groceries, we can. But tonight I'm making a shrimp dish. I don't know what I'm making yet, but what I do know is that I can go to ChatGPT and say, I have this much shrimp and I have these ingredients and my son is a picky eater, and help me make a recipe that I can start cooking at X time so that dinner's ready by this time, and give me the times I should do each of these things. And it does it. So guess what I don't have to do? Think about that. And what's funny is, again, you hear the arguments. My wife even gave me this argument. She goes, well, why don't I just Google a recipe? I'm like, it doesn't know what ingredients you have. You also, if you've ever gone to a recipe blogger's blog post, can you get to the recipe finally? There's that old joke that somebody should write a science fiction book or a mystery book, more a mystery book, where it's like the food blogger is the killer, but no one ever finds out because they confess in the middle of their blog post and everyone skips by it just to get to the recipe. But my point is that by personifying the process with AI, I have now taken care of something that matters to me a lot, which is making sure that we use the food we have, which saves us money. Number two, the kind of food that my family will eat together, which is exactly what we want. And I can do all of that. And you know what that allows me to do, which we talked about earlier? Be present in this conversation. I'm not thinking about, oh my goodness, what's dinner going to look like, etc. I don't have to think about that. I just have to be here. And so there are ways to leverage technology so that you can take back some of the attention that you need so that you can bring your intentions to life.
That's powerful. I mean, we all have the same 24 hours in a day. So it's about how efficient or effectively we use those hours to actually make something meaningful, right? I mean, you said your example is perfect. What's important to you is making and eating dinner with family, and then you're just simplifying that process so that it's enjoyable, and also you're more likely to do it next time. I just love it. So yeah, we talked about these 3 tips that you mentioned for somebody who's just trying to be productive. But I think something we just glossed over is this capturing habit, right? I mean, we jumped into to-do list because I've seen people actually they don't have a capturing system. I mean, even me, or 7 years ago, I did not have it either. I had everything in my mind, and again, we're talking about GTD. He said offload everything that you have, because your mind is not for storing ideas, but for generating ideas or something.
Yeah, your
something.
mind is not for holding. Your mind is for having ideas, not holding them.
Not holding them. Yes, yeah, that's perfect, right? So
Yeah.
since then, I was like, every small idea that comes to my mind. I mean, I'm a big fan of Todoist. I've been using that for like more than 5 years. So it's my second brain, I would say. Like even Tiago Forte says the same thing. He has his book like building a second brain.
Yep.
But yeah. So I wanted to spend some time on that capturing habit. Like for a beginner, like who doesn't have a capturing system, why is it important, and how can somebody start with it?
So we've already alluded to why it's important. Because, and I've said, one of the phrases I throw around is your mind was meant to be a factory, not a warehouse. If you get them out of your head, it's like a writer. A writer, you write that first messy draft and then you put it off to the side and you look at it later and you can better assess it, right? You can analyze it better. If it's up here, it's mixed with everything else that's going on personally, professionally, emotions. You tend to, if you keep things in your head, you will rule by emotion more than reason, right? Because we're multitudes. Our brains have lots of things going on, and it's not a reliable storage device for things that you would want to take action on. It's better for you to get it out in front of you so that you can then apply the power of your mind to make the best of those actions, right?
Yep.
So there's no real magic to capturing in terms of like, this is the way you must do it. There's nuance to it. David and I actually, a couple years ago, we did a fireside chat at a conference called Running Remote in Lisbon. And we did it as an interview. I've actually had that episode as a podcast, but there's a YouTube video for it as well, where we were both on stage and we had a conversation. And I remember someone asked, well, how do you keep track of all this stuff? Like, where do you keep track of it? And he literally pulled it, went into his back pocket and pulled out his, the GTD wallet, like the little mini notebook.
Yep.
And he goes, everything goes here. Like, this is where it starts. And I pulled out my notebook that was in my pocket and I said, look, we both are at the same time. And so you create your own short code. So for me, like, I think that the hardest thing is when you're writing things down, like that brain dump stuff that David talks about, is you see it and you're like, oh my God, you're overwhelmed by it. So I'm always a believer in adding like that second column to it, like we talked about. So, okay, here are all these things that I've written down, and then applying some of those, I call them attention paths, which are kind of an evolution of contexts in the getting things done parlance. But this idea of, again, back to the emotion, the energy levels. Hey, how long will it take for me to do these things? Will they take me 5 minutes, 15 minutes? And then just putting that number next to it, 5 minutes, 25 minutes, half hour, whatever. Or how much intensity is involved in this task, or energy. Oh, it's an up arrow, down arrow. Like we tend to look at these lists as if they are, everything is created equal. If you were going grocery shopping, you had a grocery list, you'd have your list, right? But you over time know that, okay, this is in the freezer section. Okay, this is in the produce section. So it's filtered within the store. If you wrote down your list and had produce, freezer, your experience navigating the grocery store would be better because you know exactly where to go to get those things. And you either would not buy things that you shouldn't buy that aren't on the list, let's say, or conversely, you'd have more freedom to go, okay, I've done all the things. Let's wander through the grocery store and see if there's anything else I might want. But when you're just looking at it as a list with no, again, context applied to it, it's overwhelming. We need filters. And that's what you need to apply to your list. And dates aren't great filters on their own because we overestimate what we can do in a day, right? So, and also we tend to work to the day. So dates are a problem because we will overestimate that. Projects are okay, but they're very objective. And in many cases, it's almost better to have a list that just says, okay, what are the tasks associated with this project, as opposed to let me write down everything and then move them onto that list. Projects also may have other people involved, which means you don't necessarily have full agency over them. Priority levels are tricky too, because we are bad at assessing our priorities when we are just capturing them initially. We don't have the full piece of information. Plus, we often try to have too many priorities, which means, again, the amount of quality and the effort we can apply and attention and concentration is diminished. So this is where things like, how long will this take me? Time. Resource, which is again a classic kind of context from getting things done. Where do I need to be, or who do I need to contact, or what software should I do this in? It promotes flow. Like any of these attention paths will promote flow. Again, the idea of activity type. Hey, are these writing tasks? Are these podcasting tasks? Are these errands, right? Energy, of course, I've already alluded to. And then theme. I talk about theming your time, and that's a bit more advanced, but what theme does this fall under? If you can apply the human aspect to your list that you understand very subjectively, hey, this is a 5-minute task. Because for me, a 5-minute task might be to prepare for an interview, but for you, it could be 15 minutes. It's very different, right? So again, there's nuance there. It allows you to apply nuance to the list. And so getting things out of your head is important. Verbs, of course, like I mentioned, but also making sure that when you look at that list that you can easily scan and go, okay, well, these are the things that are going to take me 5 minutes. So I'll do those now. Oh, these are the things that are going to take me, I need to be full of energy to do. So I'll do those later. You need to filter your list, and you can build those filters immediately on paper. You could do it digitally. Todoist does a great job of this with the labels. It's not about trying to attack the list in its raw form. It's about applying these filters to it. And I think the other thing, to your point about like, why don't people trust their brains, and you can't trust it. You gotta, if it's in front of you, you can then, as David's talked about, do it, defer it, delegate, delete it. Like you can see it in front of you. Don't trust it when it's up here. It's got to be in front of you.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. I mean, there are so many times, like before I started this capturing habit, there are so many times that I trusted my brain. And then, we as humans, like, we have so many things in our head, and then we tend to forget, right? I mean, then we blame ourselves.
Yeah. In fact, I would challenge your listeners right now to do this. Like literally sit down for a second, grab a sheet of paper. Don't use your digital tools. Grab a sheet of paper, pause us, and write down all the things that are in your head. Even if you've already written them down somewhere or they're in your digital tools, because that's also a clue too. Number one, like take 5 minutes to do it. It doesn't take a lot of time. And then once you've done that, if you know you've already written it down and you've got these on your list, you know what that means? That's important or urgent. Like that's something that matters because it's still in your head. And David talks about this too, the idea of open loops, right? Like that's an open loop. That is, hey, this really matters to me. Why am I not doing it? Like, why have I not made progress on it? Is it too big? Do I need to break it down? Am I doing it at the wrong time? Like, what does that look like? So people, one of the things they'll do is when they're capturing, like, oh, I already got that written down somewhere. No, still capture it.
Yep.
It's bugging you. It matters. So take that as a clue. That means it's a priority. Hey, there you go. There's your priority, right?
Yep. I mean, that works wonders. Like, especially like, when I'm feeling overwhelmed, I always have like, a pen and paper, like, right next to me. I mean, that's what I do. Like, I journal and go for a walk. I mean, that's like big thing when it comes to like getting things off my head. And also like, especially when I feel overwhelmed, like I just like write. And then that's a big lifesaver. So staying on this topic of capturing, I mean, I know the system is more important than what app we are using, but it is like, can you recommend a few apps for like, listeners to at least start with?
Well, Todoist is a really easy one to recommend because it's clean, it's simple, it gets out of your way, but it also has some really interesting features that don't make the user interface too clunky. Location-based reminders are great for people who don't work from home and need to go pick something up. You, instead of having a due date attached to it or a deadline, which is one of their new features that they've added, is you could say, like, let's say you have to go, I'll use myself as an example. I, about a year ago, watched the movie Green Book. I don't know if you've seen that movie, but it's about the jazz singer who hires it's based on a true story, a guy from New York to drive him around and be his chauffeur as he tours through the South. And he's a black man going through the South in like a time where that was just like, it's a great movie. I think it won the Academy Award for Best Picture. But what was funny, the thing I took away from it as well was that this guy, the doctor, drank Cutty Sark whiskey, which is like great whiskey per se, but it was fine. There was something emblematic about it, and I wanted to pick it up. So I put in Todoist, buy a bottle of Cutty Sark. And instead of putting a date on it, because I didn't know when I wanted to buy it, I knew it was an errand, so I put that there like I'm doing an errand, but I put a location near the liquor stores that I knew would carry it. So I was driving, I can't remember where I was going. I think I was coming home after dropping my son off at school or something like that. And as I drove close, Todoist went ping, buy a bottle of Cutty Sark. I'm like, oh. And I did not do it then. Because as soon as you drive away, the notification, it wasn't the right time. But when it popped up again a couple of weeks later, it was. So notice there was no date telling me when to do it. It just said, hey, so you could do this for things like, I know some people have used it. This is actually a really clever way of doing it. If you are leaving home and you have dry cleaning, if you, instead of having a recurring dry cleaning thing, say check for dry cleaning, and as you walk out the door, because it's a proximity sensor, it goes, hey, don't forget to check for dry cleaning. Oh, right. Like, or let's say you've driven away from home and it pops up. Take dry cleaning. And I'm like, I don't have it with me, but when I get home, I'll put it in the car. So that way, when I leave again. So there's no dates associated with that, which again goes to show that dates are not the best indicator of when you should do something. So Todoist is really great, and it's clean, minimal. It works on a whole bunch of different devices, platforms, etc. I would say that's a big one. I really like Amplenote too. What I like about Amplenote is it has task list stuff built in. It has calendar stuff built in, but it also has notes and stuff built in. So when you sent me all those questions, I just copied it, pasted it into Amplenote so I could start to do it there. So, I mean, some people love Evernote, Notion, etc. Yep. What I like about Amplenote, they have a bunch of, they're fairly new app that at least I've been exposed to. But I just like the fact I can tag things. You can do jots. So it can be an all-in-one solution for somebody who doesn't want to have like a separate to-do list app and a separate calendar app, etc. So I really like Amplenote. That would be another one I would look at. And then in terms of, I mean, I use ClickUp for my business stuff because of how robust it is. But, Notion also does a great job with this. I think the problem when you get to tools like Notion and ClickUp for some people is it's too much. It can be That's the overwhelming aspect of the tools. What I like about ClickUp compared to Notion, though, is that it already has a structure of sorts. So you're working within a structure. Whereas with Notion, Notion doesn't, it has no structure. You can build the structure, which I think is great, and you can buy templates that do it. But there's something about that I think can be a bridge too far for people who haven't explored it. So I'd say like Todoist and Amplenote would probably the ones I would look at first. And then if you are working with multiple people on major things, then I would look at something like ClickUp or Notion. But out of the gate, the cleanest one, the simplest one is Todoist, just for to-do lists. But if you're looking for something that can carry notes and calendar and to-dos, I would say Amplenote.
Yep. All right. Yeah. I'm a big fan of Todoist myself. I mean, I even I share it with my wife as well. There are some projects, groceries. Yeah. It's a project that I share it with my wife. When she adds it, when I go to grocery store and we add that location, like let's say for Costco, right? And we have a list, and that's so amazing, right? She doesn't previously, she used to we used to use Apple Notes or send me a message, and I know I can't go to 20 items and then see what I checked off versus what's still remaining, right?
But you can do that. See, here's the other thing is that Apple in particular, because I'm an Apple guy, but I mean, it's getting so good that you could use reminders and notes now. And it's very similar stuff that's already built in. What I think is really important, and you allude to this off the top though, is focus on the app within first, like the system, so you could have Todoist, but if you're not using, people will get Todoist, and you know how this works is if you don't sign up for the premium, which is like $40 a year or something like that. Yeah. You don't get custom labels and all that stuff. So if you're going to use Todoist as the way you would normally use a to-do list, let's say what I talked about was just capturing everything and not putting labels or anything, you're not going to get much further, right? So you have to, for me, all my labels are related to my attention paths. And my priority levels aren't P1, P2, P3, which exists in Todoist. I don't use that to say this is priority 1, priority 2. I say, P1, which is the red flag, is want to do items. P2 is need to do items. P3, which is blue, is recurring items so that they don't fall through the cracks. And then P4 is just something you don't label. So I have in Todoist, if I've flagged it red, it means this is something I want to do. It's important. Orange is it's urgent and I need to do it. And again, this is my own philosophy on this is some people said, well, I would put the orange that should be important and the red should be urgent because it shows up first. I'm like, but I don't want to do urgent first. I want to do important first.
Yes.
If it becomes urgent and important, I've done something wrong. So, but a lot of people out of the gate go, oh, well, this is a priority one, this is priority. You can manipulate it, which is what I like about these tools. But if you go into it with just like, hey, you know, like, and a lot of people have adopted tools like Notion or Evernote or any of these other tools with no system, you're not going to get the most out of it because the tool will not do it for you. Again, there's no silver bullet. So, I mean, I have a course called Time Crafting in Todoist that kind of shows how I use Todoist with that. And I'm developing other courses for other apps like that. But to me, you have to, the system comes first. James Clear, as we talked about prior, you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the levels of your system, right? And that is not just for habits, it's for everything.
Yep. That's something I learned from Atomic Habits, like, having system versus, goals, because he alludes to this in his book, like, winners and losers have the same goal, but, it's a person who has the system will actually, take, will achieve the results. I mean, even, is it Bill Walsh who said the score takes care of?
Yeah. I was hoping you would mention that because first off, I love that book. The Score Takes Care of Itself. Fantastic. Yeah. That has a lot to do with culture though, too, right? So things that you wouldn't necessarily think are about the San Francisco 49ers football team, he applied to create a better culture. So I think, and this is something I've kind of been leaning into, I'm getting a bit of, I don't know if you can see it, getting a bit of goosebumps here. Okay. To me, it's the system and the culture. The culture feeds the system feeds the culture. And then both feed the outcomes, the goals, the intentions, right? So values, all that stuff comes from that. And what's interesting about Bill Walsh, I don't know if you've heard this. I'm a Cincinnati Bengals fan. I'm not from Cincinnati. Honestly, when I was a young kid, my dad was watching the Super Bowl between the 49ers and the Bengals. I saw those tiger striped helmets. I thought they were cool. And that was all that it took. Now, luckily, they've been a better team in recent years than they were. But Bill Walsh was a coach for the Cincinnati Bengals. And he got passed over for the head coaching job when Paul Brown, widely considered to be one of the best football coaches ever, stepped down. Where did Bill Walsh go? San Francisco. Who did San Francisco beat in the Super Bowl prior to Cincinnati's recent trip? The San Francisco 49ers. So he took his ball, his system, his culture, and left Cincinnati and took it to San Francisco, and they became one of the most successful teams. So yes, the score takes care of itself. If you set up your systems, like I have daily themes. Today is my editing day as we're recording this on a Wednesday. So I know that my overarching focus, my heightened concentration are around tasks that are related to editing today. Which, by the way, doesn't mean just editing audio or editing video. It's editing my writing. It's maybe going through the kitchen cabinet and getting rid of food that doesn't serve me. That's editing. I'm editing my, like I can apply it that way. So it's universally applied. So when I wake up on a Wednesday, I don't go, well, what am I going to do today? Well, wait, hold on. What's today? Today's Wednesday. What's the theme? Oh, it's editing day. Okay, let me look at all my editing tasks. Just like every other day, except for Friday, I don't theme Friday, has an overarching focus. If you can create that system and that culture, then the score takes care of itself.
Yep. I love that. I mean, I want to get into your like daily theming, but before that, I want to ask, staying on this topic of capturing. So for somebody who's a beginner, like having a system to capture what's in your head, that's a big big first step, right? And then so what are your thoughts on having a system for calendar, right? So, there are some people who use Todoist like a task, like a task management versus a calendar to drive their tasks. Like, so what's the difference? Yeah. Can you talk more about it?
It's a good segue because it'll lead into theming as well. So I believe that the calendar offers the directory of your days. So think about it like when you walk into a shopping mall or, or a museum, any of these places where you get the big mall or the wall map, right? Or whatever. So the calendar is like that map. It tells you where things are. and how to get there, right? The to-do list is the details of your day. So think about a map. If you go into a museum and you see the map and you want to go see, let's say, the Space Shuttle exhibit in Chantilly, Virginia, my son and I went there. I know where the Space Shuttle is, but I don't know anything about it. I just know that that's where I go. I go there, I'm like, oh my goodness, here's all the details around the Space Shuttle. I had to get there, and now I see all that. But what's interesting is that the other piece, which we've alluded to already, is the journal, and the journal tells the story of your days, because the calendar says, here's where you need to be, here's what's going on. The to-do list says, here's the details of everything that you would either need or want to do that day. And the journal says, yeah, so how'd you feel about that? How'd that go for you, right? So the calendar to me is a framing of chronological time, which humans need to work objectively. So if you had said to me, Mike, I'd like you to be on my podcast at some point in time, and we didn't have a calendar, we would not be having this conversation. Even though you're in the East Coast and I'm on the West Coast, we are able to use calendar, chronological time to objectively meet at the same time. So the calendar gives us a structure. It democratizes the process to a degree. On that note, the to-do list is where things fit in. There's no dates associated with that. You got to have them working together. If you are a calendar-driven person, time theming is going to be what I would obviously recommend to people. Hey, theme your days, theme your months, all that stuff. And then the tasks will naturally land where they should, for the most part. If you're a to-do list driven person, I'm going to say, hey, let's talk about attention paths. But ultimately what we want is those things working together. They need to work together. I also am not a fan of people putting all their tasks on a calendar for the very reason that we talked about earlier. We rarely get everything done in a day that we say we're going to do. And if you put them on a specific time in your calendar, you're hyper scheduling yourself. What if something goes wrong with the thing leading up to that point? You want to have white space. Juliet Funt talks about this in A Moment to Think. You want to have white space in your calendars, right? And even though I theme my days, that's white space. Like, I know that today we're having this conversation. When I'm done this conversation, it's, what do you do now? Well, I got to do editing tasks, right? So the calendar to me is important, but it doesn't do the work on its own. It is either the trigger for you to do the work that you're meant to do on those days, months, weeks, whatever, or it is a chance for you to interact with others who also are living in time with you, and the calendar creates it. Because the calendars, people are like, oh, this calendar's been the same way forever. We touched on earlier, we mentioned Eviatar Zerubbabel, right, who wrote the 7-week circle. Do you know the week is the only man-made increment of time? It's the only one. The month is done by, how many times the cycles of the moon, right? The day is how we rotate around the sun, right? The year is how many times the sun, all that. Like, that's all nature. The only one that was created, because the week has changed. It used to be, there was like a 10-day week, and then there was there's so much history around the week. So man, really, and this is why it drives me nuts, time management. I don't like that term either, because you can't manage something that moves on without you. How can you manage that? You can manage your relationship with time. You can manage expectations. You can do all that. But if you say, I'm going to manage time, time's got other plans for you. So you want to manage your relationship with time, and the calendar allows us to do that with ourselves and with others.
So that's great. That's great. So we touched upon some apps when it comes to capturing stuff, but when it comes to calendar, there are so many apps right there. So
I think you need two different types, and now they're becoming mutually they're becoming integrated. So there's a calendar app I use called Morgan, Morgen, and it allows you to introduce your tasks into it as well, but it also has booking links, which I think is becoming more increasingly important. So that instead of saying, hey, meet with me at this time, you could say, hey, here's a booking link. Let's find a time. Mm-hmm. What I love about booking links isn't so much that you're telling people I'm only available at this time, but you're showing them how much time you're willing to give to them to choose from. Yep. I think that's important, because no one's really asking, well, how come you have very little time? No one's saying that. If you give them a link and your calendar is fairly open, which most people are, you're saying, hey, I'm going to give you some of my time. You can choose whatever you want, but you're not telling people what you're not giving them, right? On Wednesdays, we're having this conversation right now. I don't do these conversations on Mondays or Fridays. Just don't. But I wouldn't say to you, hey, I don't do these. I go, here's my link. And you go, oh, wow, look, Mike's giving me all this time on Wednesday or Tuesday or Thursday. So it's about balance there. So Morgan is really good. I like how it also introduces frames of time, which allow you to do some of this time theming stuff I'm talking about. I would say other calendars that I like, there's so many that are in there that like LifeStack's another one. I think it's iOS only. That's introducing like moments of wellness into the day and things of that nature. Timing is another one. There's so many though. I think that you can get caught up. Well, I mean, Amplenote has a calendar aspect to it as well. And some of these task list apps, Todoist has this view. A lot of them have the calendar view. I don't like, again, this goes back to the let me schedule tasks for specific times on those days. That's where I find that it can get a bit muddy. So I like to keep my calendar kind of separate from that. So that way I have more agency over when I decide to do certain things. So I would say like Morgan is probably the one that I've been leaning more towards because the calendar apps have been tricky over the years. Like there's been so many that have come and gone, right? Especially with smart scheduling and so on and so forth. So I'd say like Morgan's probably my favorite of all of the ones that I've been using in recent. But again, you could use Amplenote for this. You can even use just straight up Google Calendar or Office or whatever. It's just, for me, it's about, hey, I want to create an all-day activity that is free that tells me that what my daily theme is. So no one needs to see it but me. But when I look at the calendar, I go, oh yeah, right, Wednesday's editing day. Let me do that stuff. So I think that I also have a wall calendar that you can't see here. That's like a full view of my year. It's called the time crafting calendar. And it tells me like, I can look at this and go, oh, so today is this podcast episode dropped. And like I can see all that there and get a bird's eye view of my year. The calendar, again, it democratizes time to a degree and it's a grid. It lets you see time as we experience it. And I think if we use it in that way, I think it serves us much better than just cramming it full of stuff.
Yes, yeah. That's great. So we talked about capturing. We talked about having a calendar where you have your appointments and stuff. So we touched upon daily theming. So I would want to know the concept of daily theming and like how does your daily theming in a week look like?
So daily theming is, for those that don't know, it's the practice or the decision to give an overarching focus and or heightened concentration to types of tasks on a given day. So what you do when you're picking out themes, and you don't theme every day of the week, not at first. The way I would recommend people to do this is find a day where they feel like they have more agency over their time than others. So often a weekend they'll start with. So I'll give Saturday as an example. Whenever I'm working with someone, either coaching or whatnot, is I'll say, well, what days do you have kids? Yes, I do. Well, what days are they home? Oh, they're home on weekends, and they're sometimes home on Monday and sometime on Friday. So we work through like a process of elimination, saying, well, I don't think it's a good idea for you to be recording videos or podcasts when your kids are home. So those 4 days should be eliminated, which means Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday should be the days that you do that, right? And then they can pick one of those days and make it their overarching focus. So it's through process of elimination. I tend to ask people when they're looking, if you're going to decide how to theme your days, look like a month ahead, because your calendar is probably already filling up and any of the static appointments will technically stay there. So let's say Monday, you have a meeting every Monday, or your Mondays are filled with meetings. Well, then Monday might be a good day for, administrative tasks that you can kind of do in between these meetings. And then what you want to do is kind of gear your captured tasks, as we talked about, to kind of land on those days more often than not. It doesn't mean I only do administrative tasks or you would only do administrative tasks on Mondays. It's just that's where your overarching focus is. So on a Saturday, like I've had people say, I can't theme my days. I'm like, okay, well, when do you do your laundry? Oh, the weekends. When do you go grocery shopping? No, the weekends. When do you do household chores? The weekends. I go, well, like, do you go to church? Yeah, I do. Do you watch football? Yeah, I do. Okay, so what if Saturday was like the day where you did your household stuff? Well, that's what I typically do. I go, so Saturday's like your household day, right? Yeah, and then all of a sudden, like, oh, I'm like, yeah, you're already doing it.
Yep.
And the immediate argument I could point to for most people, let's if we go down, the religious route, Sundays, for most Christians, that's church day. That's the day they go to church. Okay, so what else could you do on that day that is related to that? Relationships? Oh, great. Well, I'm improving my relationship with my with the spiritual side of myself. I'm working on the relationships with my family, with my friends. Boom. Everything towards relationships gets pushed to that day for the most part. So that's what daily themes can do. They give you a place to start. And it's a very binary question. Like I said, hey, what day is it? What am I going to do today? Your brain goes, I could do anything or nothing, right? Like that's a terrible question. But if you say it's Wednesday, what does Wednesday mean? Oh, Wednesday means editing. Well, what are my editing tasks? I immediately went from I could do anything or nothing to a very select few tasks. And when I say few, it could be a variety. But the point is that it gears your attention towards those intentions that you set on that day. So for me, my daily themes, I'll just tell you what they are really quickly. Saturday is called stewardship for me. So it's taking care of family, taking care of friends, taking care of the house. That's stewardship. It falls under that. So I can do that for both work stuff and home stuff. Sunday is my planning day. Why did I choose Sunday as planning day? No one bugs me on Sundays. No one's emailing me. There's no expectation around it. So I focus on planning. Monday is my day. I call it attunement, which is where all the plans I've made, I cross collaborate and cross talk with my assistant. And I look at other things that are going on and I just make sure everything is aligned and so on and so forth. And I'm doing things that make me feel good. Mainly because most people don't want to meet on a Monday anyway, because they're so busy hitting the ground running. So that's attunement for me. And that's one, because I've been doing this for so long, I can use, but not many people could pick that one out of the gate. Tuesday is my connection day. Most of the time is spent to my community. I'm also reaching out to people saying, hey, when can we get together? So on and so forth. So it's about connecting. Wednesday, as I mentioned, is editing. And then Thursday is delivery day. So here's a bit of an Easter egg for anybody listening to this after, this date forward. If I'm going to release something like a big project or something, it's going to be on a Thursday. Like that's the day. Doesn't matter. So that's the day that I'm geared towards. So it's delivering on outcomes. It's delivering. I'm going to go do my errands. That could be a form of delivery too. So I give myself, I call this the Goldilocks factor, which is either you want to find the just right, like what fits into that. You don't want to have your themes be too narrow because then you'll run out of things to do. Don't let them be too broad because then you'll still be overwhelmed. So it's about finding what that just right is. And then Friday, I don't have a theme. It's a cheat day. So I'll usually follow attention paths. And I can tell you, by the time my week's done, I'm mostly going, okay, Todoist, and click up, what are all my low energy tasks? And I try to bang those out because I'm pretty spent. But I'm making bit by bit compounding progress because of these daily themes. And by the way, we don't want to get too deep in the weeds here, but if I also use my daily themes to guide what my monthly themes would be. So my monthly theme for this month is about kind of renewal. I look at January as a month of renewal. So what are my editing tasks that would serve renewal? Oh, well, I'm going to edit this YouTube video because I want to get my YouTube channel going. That could be it. So it's just about being human with your producing, with your being productive, as opposed to being inhumane or not human with the kind of work that I'm trying to do. It just centers my concentration a lot more. And it can work for others. Again, don't theme all 6 days or 7 days or 5 days of the week. Start with one and see how that goes for you.
So I want to get into the last segment. Before that,
Sure.
I actually want to talk about your podcast. So you have, it used to be the Productivitist podcast, and now you call it, a productive conversation. But, you interviewed close to 600 people. Some of my favorite episodes are your episodes with James Clear, Gretchen Rubin, Marshall Goldsmith, and, these are like really good. So when it comes to your podcast is focused on productivity. So what are some of the common themes or, at least common patterns that you observed after interviewing close to 600 people on your podcast?
It's a great question. I think the most common theme is we need to give ourselves grace as we make our way through time. I think every one of my guests, to a degree, some more than others, have said that what they're sharing is a way to, it's helpful, but, you will fall down and that's okay. But what they're offering will help you also get up. So one of the things that I actually just shared this today is I'm a big comic book guy as well. Like I love Vision from the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but I loved him in the comics too. And he said, I shared this today. He goes, humans are odd. They think that order and chaos are different things, but there is grace in their failings. And I think that this is not new, when we fail at things, we have a couple of choices. One is to give up, and one is to recognize that failure, most people have failed along the way. I mean, even the most successful people have failed. And the tools and the techniques and the insights that my guests have shared have largely said, here's what you can do. Don't worry about it if you can't get it right, if you mess it up or whatever. You just dust yourself up and off and get back up. And every story that I've shared, like, Gretchen Rubin talks about, the 4 tendencies, right? Mm-hmm. And so when she talks about that, she'll say, like, if you didn't do that, like, look at, if you're an upholder and your things didn't work, it's okay. Just learn from that, right? And then use this tool to help you get back up. I think that's the biggest thing. Which truth be told, humanizes everybody that's been on this show, right? Mm-hmm. Like David Allen and I have had many, many conversations over the years, and he doesn't get this all right all the time either. But what he's done over the time is, because he has trust in his system and trust in his process, it allows him to, again, have a great relationship with time and have this state of productiveness about himself, because he can look to the system and go, okay, well, my emotions are running hot right now, so let's apply reason to this, and my system allows me to have reason. James is the same, right? I remember meeting him for the first time. We at a conference in Portland, and the conversations that people had around him and habits and stuff is like, look, like, you're not going to get it right out of the gate. Process over perfection, right? And progress over perfection. Yep. I think that's the biggest thing. And I think everyone should learn from that. It's not about getting it right. And I mean, your podcast talks about compounding it, right? Mm-hmm. Like, you're not going to get it right out of the gate, and that's okay. There's grace in your failings. Learn from that. And then, dust yourself up, get back up. Because again, it's about the journey. I mean, you're never going to get to the final destination, because you will always it'll always be a moving target for you. So the idea is just bit by bit, step by step. Again, progress over perfection, process over perfection.
I love it. Like, consistency over intensity, progress over perfection. I love that. I mean, it's all like compounding for sure.
And I think that really quickly, the hard thing is that if you're going to be consistent, you need to be able to sustain it. I think we don't talk about sustaining and sustainability enough when it comes to this kind of stuff. We hear consistency, and again, we hear be consistent. Okay, that means every day, right? No, that doesn't mean every day at all. It just means, like, be consistent with the time frame you've chosen. And if you can't, then find a new one. It's got to be. So I'm a big believer in simple, flexible, durable, sustainable. If you have all those things, then you're going to keep making measured progress. And that's what you want, both qualitatively and quantitatively. So yeah, consistency is important. But I think it's got to be partnered with sustainability in order for that consistency to actually do you and what you're trying to do with it justice.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. Especially when it comes to this podcast, I release every other Friday. So I'm consistent with that frequency, so, right? And also, like, for somebody, it could be like going to gym like 3 times a week and staying consistent with that. It doesn't have to be, just to, you touched upon this, like, it doesn't have to be every day, but something that's sustainable, right? I love. So we're getting towards the end of the podcast, and then there are 3 questions that I ask all my guests. I call them the Hotseat questions. Are you ready for this?
Yeah, let's go.
Yes. So the first question is regarding action. So compounding project is all about taking action. So we discussed about a ton of stuff today. So what one small action would you recommend people take right after listening to this episode?
keep a journal. Start journaling.
Yeah.
You won't recognize the things you need to change and the patterns that are working for you and not working for you unless you take anywhere up to 5 minutes a day to journal. And there's no right or wrong way to journal either. There's lots of tools out there to help you. I would say keeping a journal is the most undervalued and underappreciated element of cultivating the state of productiveness and having a healthy relationship with time. So start a journal.
Journaling is a game changer. I mean, I can totally relate to that. So the second question is regarding books. So books are an integral part of this compounding project journey. So what 3 books would you recommend in 3 areas of life? 1 book on health, 1 book on wealth, 1 book on wisdom or productivity.
Ooh, on health, I would say The Power of When by Dr. Michael Bruce. And it's a bit of an outlier because I'm talking mostly about sleep in that one. So what he talks about is the idea of when is the best time for you to do certain things based on your circadian rhythms. And I think that is a highly misunderstood and not leveraged way that we should be going about our way in the world. So I would say that anything by Dr. Michael Bruce, but particularly The Power of When, especially if you're looking for something prescriptive that says, hey, when's the best time for you to do this? Well, if you are a night owl, this would be it. Or if you are earlier. So I would say that would be a great place to start. And it's one that I've returned to again and again. When it comes to wealth, I'd say The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. I love his writing. Same as Ever is another great book of his, but I've really liked The Psychology of Money. And when it comes to wisdom and self-help, I mean, I could argue that Getting Things Done is one of the better books out there, but there's so many. I would say that probably, and I'm going to go back into the way back into the archives for this one, is How to Live on 24 Hours a Day by Arnold Bennett. Have you heard of this book before?
No, I've heard about the first 2 books you mentioned, but not this one.
So How to Live on 24 Hours a Day is written by Arnold Bennett. It was written in 1910.
Interesting.
You can get it for free on archive.org or any of these. You can also buy it off Amazon or go to eBay and get like an original copy. It was a series of articles that he wrote. Cal Newport's talked about this book as well, which is how I learned about it years and years ago. What I like about it, if you can get past the fact that obviously this is written in 1910 and there's some different ideologies around, classism and all that stuff, and just look at the lessons, you will find that there's a lot of stuff that's being talked about even today that was being talked about back then. And so what I love about the message of this book is that it shows that all of these behaviors that humans have are timeless, and no matter what era you're in, you will come across them. And the big message, of course, is, living on 24 hours a day. You mentioned, we all have the same 24 hours a day, but most people don't think about the day that way. They think about when they start work and when they end work. They don't think about the rest of it. And this is a book that kind of tells you to take that time into account. And then he offers some advice on how to spend that time. Lots of great stuff in it. And it's a short read too. So I've given you books that are actually fairly short. Well, The Power of One is longer, but Psychology of Money is a short read. And this one is only about like 80 pages. So I would recommend this book, How to Live on 24 Hours a Day by Arnold Bennett.
I would love to read that. Even if a book has, if you're talking about a book that's more than 100 years old, then I think, it has got the timeless wisdom. So I'll just get my hands on it for sure. And then, so the third one is a rapid fire. So I'll give you 2 options. Let me know which one you choose. Are you ready for this?
I am.
Yes. So paperback or Kindle?
Paperback.
Fiction or non-fiction?
Non-fiction.
Audiobooks or podcasts?
Podcasts, because I use audiobooks typically for fiction. So podcasts.
Right. Self-help or biographies?
Biographies now. Self-help before, biographies now.
Okay. The last question, I think I might know the answer, but like time or money?
Time.
For sure. Yeah.
Time isn't money.
Exactly. We're talking to a productivity expert, so I know what the answer is going to be. But with that, Mike, thanks a lot for your time. It's been a pleasure talking to you on this podcast. So can you talk about how can people learn more about you?
Well, I would say that the best place to go if you want to start getting updates from me and learning more, reading more of my stuff, you'll be able to access the podcast from there, is go to mikevardy.com/light, LIGHT. It'll lead you to my weekly newsletter and ultimately to some of the tips that will help you with time crafting as well, which is the framework that I teach. I would start there. mikevardy.com/light will get you to pretty much everywhere that we need to where I'd like to guide you.
Sure. Can you also talk about your upcoming new book, Productivity Diet?
Yeah, so the productivity diet has been a work that I've been working on for a number of years. The plan was to have it out by now. The plans have changed. It's basically, the way I look at it is I want to approach in the book. I'm approaching productivity in the book the way that a diet is approached in a book as well, not as a quick fix, but as a lifestyle. So the productivity diet is about living a lifestyle that cultivates this state of productiveness, although I really don't talk about productiveness too much in that book. And it's going to have recipes and all that stuff. It kind of goes over the importance of time crafting as a way of helping you operate. But again, I'm very system agnostic when it comes to this stuff. So there'll be a lot of nuggets in there. But it's essentially promoting the fact that being productive isn't a quick fix or a silver bullet or a bunch of life hacks. It's about a lifestyle, and how do you adopt a lifestyle that will work for you, that will allow you to not do productive, but be productive.
Yeah, I would love to get my hands on the book when the book is released. So Mike, thank you so much for your time. If you find value in this episode, then please don't forget to subscribe. Until next time, trust compounding and take action now.
Thank you so much for watching or listening. If you enjoyed this episode, then please do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. If you like this episode, you might have to check out this episode, which links in with some of the stuff we talked today. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.